Assista agora a mais um lançamento com a qualidade Vídeo 3.
I knew I had to find out answers to these things. It was very, very difficult. There was no easy way of finding an answer to something like this. But it seemed to me that things naturally came my way. I started to receive reports from people as it became known I was interested in this subject. I received reports in growing numbers until I was receiving reports in hundreds. And then the net spread, and it wasn't to a local area. And then it went to the whole of England, and then slowly but surely it spread until the world came in, and information was being fed from many, many directions, and many, many people helped. And as this information grew and grew, the fact that there were solid objects and other type of objects flying out there were other intelligences, became very, very real. There is a wealth of information, documented and otherwise now, of the real existence of these entities, aliens, whatever you wish to put the name on them. The problem is, in our society there has been a very, very well orchestrated aura of ridicule imposed on society, so that people who were seeing these objects were afraid to report them for fear of ridicule. People in positions of responsibility saw these things, and many have spoken to me, but they always speak in hushed tones behind closed doors. And when you ask them why, they say, well, if I was to make this public what I had seen, I would lose my job. This is the syndrome which is been among society for many, many years. There are more people all the time coming forward. We're beginning to break this mold of ridicule, and the reports are coming from all manner of people. I've had them from doctors and pilots, from military personnel, you name it, I've had it from them. And it's like a snowball. It's gathering momentum, it's gathering size. And it will not be long before all the population realizes that these are out there. We are not the only people here. And when the realization of this comes to the front, then I feel that we will all be lifted on a higher level spiritually.
Man is beginning to respect the universe and the laws of the cosmos. Therefore, he will learn a great deal faster.
Perhaps the most immediate cosmic law that we, in fact, discover through the presence of our physical vehicle is the law of permission. The law of permission discusses with us space. Everything from how close do we let someone we love or someone we don't love come to us? How much of our own power we have the right to use when that power interfaces with the needs or the expression of others? This is a conversation that is critical at this time on our planet. And we are attempting, the entire global family of humanity, to learn this lesson. Where do my rights begin and end in relationship to yours? Can I take what's yours? Of course, these cosmic laws of permission have been spoken of in all of the great books when we talk about the right to live together or to ever take another life. We must answer these questions. Of course, I have a fairly radical point of view on that, which is that ultimately there are no victims. Therefore, if you take a space on some level of consciousness, it is always given to you. It is given to you not because you have more value than the value of another, but perhaps so that you can learn the laws of cause and effect, what we call karma. That your actions cause reaction. The space that you take, if it infringes on another, creates an energy which will produce an effect. And that effect will be your teacher. These are things that we must begin to bring into our daily consciousness so that we become aware that what we do and what we think and even what we feel influences those around us. And we must begin to ask the permission of those around us. There is a great need for healing on this planet now. And yet, with our highest intention to contribute, perhaps that's settling a dispute between two nations or between two children. It may not be very different.
I think it's a very big help to recognize that we're interconnected with other people, that human life is interconnected with the life of the planet, and that what we do individually affects other people, not only through our words and our actions, but also our thoughts can directly influence other people by a kind of resonance.
Unless we begin to know how to break through this small self and to become the large self, which is at one with the universe out there. There isn't any longer the small self here and the universe out there, but there's this great sense of oneness. Then we can really begin to realize that whatever we do affects every other part of the universe. And so it's only when we realize this connectedness of all things, this way that if we do something to ourselves, it doesn't just affect ourselves, but everywhere and everyone, then what we do really matters. And so only then can we really begin to take responsibility for ourselves, others, and the universe as a whole.
The present orientation in the Western world is that we must struggle with nature and absolutely dominate and overcome her by brute force. In so doing, we do destruction to many of the natural processes. A much better approach is to how do we adapt the natural processes and use them to accomplish the purposes we need for good purposes for human beings. You do a lot more with nature by leading her gently by the hand than you do by trying to destroy her. Eventually, if you persist in trying to destroy nature, you will find that you yourself are natural and you are destroying yourself.
That would mean a science which has some motivation other than mere power and conquest, because science as we know it is formed on the metaphor of imperial conquest, conquering nature, enslaving nature, the domination of man.
The integration of your society with the forces of your natural environment is a necessary step to achieve perfect harmony. Within the natural forces surrounding your existence are the means to achieve any possible requirements, if channeled in the right direction. The traumas of famine, disease, and death as you understand them are not necessary. Abundant food and medical materials are within your reach, if you focus your efforts on positive growth and not negative aggression.
The awareness of your own potential in total harmony with the forces of creation would lift your technology and status into an ever-increasing spiral of realization. In practical terms, you would transform deserts into huge food-producing areas. Every element of your world could be made to serve you until peace and perfect happiness prevail.
What happens when we discover that we are a part of universal law is that almost without trying, our daily life begins to evolve, begins to change. Because if we address ourselves to those cosmic laws, our whole manner of living must, out of necessity, alter itself. We cannot become aware of cause and effect, of karma, and continue blindly to simply plunge through our lives without any awareness of the effect. The moment we begin to recognize that we are having an effect on our environment, something changes in us. Our hearts change. Our compassion changes. Every human being searches for some reflection that we have purpose, that we can make a difference in the world. Even if that's a difference within the family or in our jobs. The more feedback comes to us about how our action in the world or our feelings in the world affect that which is outside us, the more we're willing to step up and participate in the law of commitment. Commitment is a very powerful word, a word that is greeted with a great deal of disdain by most of us, because we try the word commitment on as if it were something that constricts us and confines us. It means we have to do it this way or we have to be that way. But when we learn that commitment is the pleasure of individual purpose, of our own source being expressed outside us, then those energies take on a new feeling to us, so that we can learn to commit, to say, I want to participate, I want to be visible. I realize that what I feel, that what I think, echoes out in the world. This is why in today's world it's so important to focus inside, to meditate, to sit in the center of the self and experience your own knowing. Because, for example, if you can find the point of peace inside your body, you are beginning to radiate out an echoing that is picked up, an energy that is influencing every moment the energies of those around you, and then those around them, and continually echoing out across the planet. So if you use your consciousness to be aware of what you're creating in the world, if you are floundering around in your own individual life, unhappy, feeling that it's not enough, that it's insignificant, and that you have no value, then you create an energy around you that echoes it back to you, as well as out into the world. It's very important to recognize that you are not accidentally on this planet, but that you have come purposefully, and everything you think and feel influences those around you, so that you greet each day as a day of challenge and adventure, with a little recognition inside yourself that you are up to the task, that you're strong enough to meet everything that comes toward you. Because ultimately, as you begin to seek and understand cosmic law, you will recognize that you have created that universe outside you for the purpose of your own evolution.
Out of that understanding, echoes and newly realized desires arise to provide oneself with a new quality of life. The awareness of oneself and the place one occupies in the universal law of exchange is the framework of cosmic expectation, the unselfish expression of love and creation. The cosmos is filled with all the energy we need. It's like walking along the beach picking up diamonds. Our present state of consciousness doesn't allow us to exclude ourselves from higher dimensions any longer.
And so again, we're dealing with an area which we have changed suddenly. Reality itself has become something quite different from what we've been used to. We have gone from the flatlander to enter the real universe, the more mature universe. And we're going to have to learn to deal with that. We're going to have to learn to deal with it just like a child has to learn to ride a bicycle by trial and error and learn to do that. We have a completely different kind of functioning that we have to learn to deal with, that's possible with the human being. We have the world's most marvelous scalar interferometry ever dreamed of inside our body already. We already possess the most marvelous tools that ever existed. Unfortunately, the output of that system is in the deep unconscious. We're not consciously aware of it. I even hesitate to say what could be done if we actively could control our own system. Everything that's called miracles or people walking through walls or whatever can conceivably be done were we able to control this kind of thing, because we would be gating and controlling cosmic energy, unlimited. We're not really prepared for that in our present situation, to consider that man or human beings become much more powerful human beings in this respect. We are not prepared to deal with the fact that we will have telepathy, the ability to look directly in the mind and see what's there. A lot of business deals, for example, as we do them now, will suffer from that when one card sharp, so to speak, is trying to beat the other card sharp. In this case, it's a business card sharp. So a lot of the things that are continual conflict in our society, we're going to have to find different ways of dealing with, because now people are going to know that. They're going to know eventually what your real motives are. And this is different functioning from what every human being has normally had. And the process by which we acquire the ability to use this part of ourselves, we've always had it. It isn't mysterious and mystical. It really is a physical process. There are real mechanisms there. It's like everybody now has the ability to be a high wire walker on the tight wire. You normally can't do that. If you tried to do that, you'd fall off and be hurt. But with training and continuing to try and all, you can learn to do that. Everybody has that innate ability. And this is the same thing I'm saying here. We have certain abilities that everybody has innately that are not developed, but that can be developed. And so we're going to have to deal with a whole vast area of human functioning that we've never had to deal with openly before. That's another aspect of the future.
I think the main insight from my work is the sense that nature's alive, that we live in a living world, that human life is part of a larger system of life, and that our way of knowing about the larger living world can come to us directly through our own experience of life, as well as through intellectual theories. And this means that understanding and realizing once again that the world is alive in a way that I describe in more detail in my book, The Rebirth of Nature. This way of thinking enables us to appreciate a lot more about our own direct living experience, and it enables us to recognize that we know a lot through direct intuition. And this knowledge is valid and important kind of knowledge, not merely something subjective to be brushed aside in terms of more external and intellectual understanding. We have to come to see our intellect and our intuition, our direct experiences, complementary ways of knowing about life, rather than one being dismissed as subjective and the other being elevated as supremely objective.
The answer to what is life or the purpose of our lives, for me, is very simple. The purpose of our lives is for the evolution of our soul. We think of our soul as an individual something. It isn't ultimately. It's a part of the universal spark of life, divine energy of life. And as each of us come into body, we are here expanding the universe through our experience. Each experience that we have opens up the probable realities that are available within the universe. If we did not evolve, everything would stop. Everything would disappear. All energy is continually expanding, moving through a universal pulse. And that pulse does include life, death, contraction, expansion, light.
The evolvement of our race took the same course as yours many eons before the dawn of your civilization. We suffered feudal wars and destructive destabilization, but evolved through this as you will. We are by no means superior to you, only older in wisdom, because the evolution of our kind preceded yours. We are here with the hand of brotherly friendship as teachers, like you will be as your evolvement grows. Each one of your kind has the ability to grow in understanding and raise your cosmic consciousness. The answer lies within the fabric of us all. We hold great love for you and know that your direction is now turning towards the path of cosmic understanding.
We will give all the love to help you in accordance with cosmic law and the spirit of brotherly affection. But we can only advise. The future of your race must be determined by your own free will. Our view of you shows great hope and expectation, and we await with anticipation the day when you will aspire to the federation of cosmic brotherhood.
Just as when we are living, we each have this electromagnetic field of life force energy that radiates out from us. The planet itself has an auric field. The earth itself, the sky, have pulsating energy that are made up of the particles of our consciousness. Consciousness is not a mental concept. It is an energy which follows cosmic laws of motion and transmutation. If we could become aware of these auras, of our own auras, consciously clearing them, healing them, altering from them negative thought forms, then as my aura touches your aura, we would create a new possibility of relationship. And our auras together would create new relationships. So that the planetary aura could be cleansed. That is why the indigenous people around the earth continually speak of the epochs of existence, and how at this epoch we have reached perhaps the limit of darkness, and we must become conscious of these pulsations, of these cosmic laws, so that we can clear the planetary energy
I think that the difficult part is the collective change in attitudes that we need, because one individual in London deciding they won't go to work on their car but instead go by public transport isn't going to solve the world global problems and the greenhouse effect, nor even one individual deciding they'll eat organic food instead of food produced by chemicals. What we need is a collective change as well, and that must involve a political dimension, and if it involves a political dimension, it must involve social, cultural, and I think also religious dimensions, because unless there's a spiritual aspect to this process of change, I don't think it'll be possible to sustain it or to motivate people sufficiently deeply.
In one of his books, Rupert Sheldrake writes, "We need to respond to our present ecological crisis practically by making appropriate social, political, economic, and technological changes. We need to look at the attitudes that have led to such devastation of the earth and to find a more harmonious way of living. And those of us who believe in the power of prayer need to pray for forgiveness and guidance. If a wiser and juster human order comes about, if a new harmony develops between humanity and the living world, this would indeed seem like an answer to prayer." As soon as we allow ourselves to think of the world as alive, we recognize that a part of us knew this all along. It is like emerging from winter into a new spring. We can begin to reconnect our mental life with our own direct, intuitive experiences of nature. And we can begin to develop a richer understanding of human nature, shaped by tradition and collective memory, linked to the earth and the heavens, related to all forms of life, and consciously open to the creative power expressed in all evolution. We are reborn into a living world.
The only way to be optimistic is to believe that these are the birth pangs of a new humanity that will become much more aware of its oneness and the way that whatever happens in any part of the planet affects every other part of the planet, and a new consciousness of solving problems by talking rather than by shooting. It's happening. And that's where I feel optimistic. And it's possible that if it weren't for a challenge like this, humanity wouldn't have come to this point of understanding that it has come to through the crisis. So I'm optimistic about that. And I'm optimistic because I find such beauty in people. I'm so moved sometimes by the beauty that I see coming through. I think that's the only hope, is the beauty that comes through, the splendor.
Philosophically speaking, if I address the question of what is the law of nature philosophically, I bring in the intent of the human being when he says law of nature in the first place. The human being is trying to say, when he says this is a law of nature, he's trying desperately to say that reality has now become fixed and obeys this, just like a brick-like world is very mechanical. It's an attempt to return to the notion of a mechanical universe, which has long since been destroyed. But you see, if you have a universe that doesn't have any such laws in it, or that you can modify the laws, and particularly you can engineer them, for example, using the Whittaker methodology, then reality doesn't become fixed. It becomes plastic. It becomes variable. And you can actually engineer it. And that is the greatest insecurity in the world. Suddenly there is no security. Where is my fortress? Where is the things that I can count on? Where are my brick-like security blankets? They're all gone. So what it really does when you meet it face to face, it forces the human being to consider, what does it mean after all to be alive? What does it mean, after all, to be immersed in physical existence? What do we mean by physical existence in the first place? And are we really just machines? Is that what we really are, what the conventional orthodox scientist tells us? And what we meet face to face is the answer: we are not. We are spirits, we are souls, we are living forms and living minds. The fact that we do inhabit a body, we do have a beautiful robot to serve us, very useful one, we must not confuse the fact that we are the body, we are not. And of course this becomes then a religious statement. If you are religiously inclined, and I happen to be, I'm not dogmatically inclined, but I am very religious. If you are religiously inclined and you believe there is a creator of some kind who created all this marvelous order anyway, it didn't just spring full-blown into existence out of nothing. If you believe in that, or you accept that even as a thesis, then what it tells you is that it's a very marvelous reality that we live in, and that whether we consider ourselves ready for it or not, we've now been handed the tools to engineer physical reality itself with all that implies. And we have to learn to be a lot more mature and a lot more responsible, instead of being so immersed in war and ready to kill each other and beat our brains out. It's a far more responsible and far more complex reality than that. It's not as simple as winning or losing so much money or so much gain or so much power or so much influence. It's far more complicated and complex than that, and far richer and more human.
If we can begin to contemplate the laws of energy, so that, for example, our thought forms can be acknowledged as ripples that move out and change the universe, then we can realize that we not only have a role to play, a responsibility, but that we can fearlessly expand our consciousness to embrace that purpose of our lives. Therefore, if you choose to seek the whole, to uphold the good, to say to yourself, I'm glad I'm alive every day, then your thought form, your feeling, will release energy into the world that changes it. You can test this. When you come home to dinner every night, come into the door with that thought in your head, I'm glad I'm here. And you will discover that the rest of the members of your family will feel happy, that they'll be glad to see you, that there will be an exciting energy, that everyone will give off a radiance of being alive. Something that simple. A sentence that you can give to someone you know changes how they experience reality. If we look at the world in that way, we know that there is unlimited hope, that we ourselves are creating the universe, are creating the quality of our lives. It's completely within your hands and no one else's. There's an old expression, if the door closes, a window opens. As we look at our lives, we always discover, because that happened, this is taking place. Everything you experience is a gift to you. Seek the gift, and it will be easy for you to feel that the quality of your life is rich, is full, that it's not sourced in the outside world. It is not. It is sourced within you, and only within you. You are not only the star of your own movie, but completely the designer of that movie. The universe changes through our expression, through the lives that we live. Hope is not something for the future. It's not a concept. It's simply an energy that we can command inside ourselves by selecting the thoughts that we have and the expressions that extend from us. Life is not a tragedy. Life is not an accident. You and I are here, and we have the right to be here with grace, with joy.
You are the children of destiny and the light of creation, traveling your cosmic journey on a chariot of rainbows. Your spirit flies with the creatures of the air and sings a song of harmony with all things. You are the light of love and understanding, made with the lifeblood of immortality from the Creator of time itself.
Go forward in love with the knowledge that the truth of your future is already written in the halls of eternity, and your destiny is assured. Follow the teachers of wisdom and truth as you go forward with the understanding that you are the seed of the Creator. The Creator is you.
Across the universe, spinning words into your mind, making you speak of love, the everlasting one, on your way to life, on your way to life, on your way. I'm leading you across the universe, bringing sun into your heart, making you feel the warmth of joy, embracing you on your way to life, on your way to life, on your way. If all seems to tumble and fall, I will hear your call. If all seems to crumble or fall, I will hear your call. I'm carrying you across the universe, setting crystals into your weary eyes, making you see the beauty of nature surrounding you on your way to life, on your way to life, on your way. And if all seems to tumble and fall, I will hear your call. If all seems to crumble or fall, I will hear your call. We're sailing now across the universe, feeling the fire in our souls. We too are part of this endless universe, on our way to life, on our way to life, on our way.
many, many people helped. And as this information grew and grew, the fact that there were solid objects and other type of objects flying out there, there were other intelligences, became very, very real. There is a wealth of information, documented and otherwise now, of the real existence of these entities, aliens, whatever you wish to put the name on them. The problem is, in our society there has been a very, very well orchestrated aura of ridicule imposed on society. I knew I had to find out answers to these things. It was very, very difficult. There was no easy way of finding an answer to something like this. But it seemed to me that things naturally came my way. I started to receive reports from people as it became known I was interested in this subject. I received reports in growing numbers until I was receiving reports in hundreds. And then the net spread, and it wasn't to a local area. And then it went to the whole of England, and then slowly but surely it spread until the world came in, and information was being fed from many, many directions. And so that people who were seeing these objects were afraid to report them for fear of ridicule. People in positions of responsibility saw these things, and many have spoken to me, but they always speak in hushed tones behind closed doors. And when you ask them why, they say, well, if I was to make this public what I had seen, I would lose my job. This is the syndrome which has been among society for many, many years. There are more people all the time coming forward. We're beginning to break this mould of ridicule, and the reports are coming from all manner of people. I've had them from doctors and pilots, from military personnel. You name it, I've had it from them. And it's like a snowball. It's gathering momentum, it's gathering size. And it will not be long before all the population realises that these are out there. We are not the only people here. And when the realisation of this comes to the front, then I feel that we will all be lifted on a higher level spiritually.
Man is beginning to respect the universe and the laws of the cosmos. Therefore, he will learn a great deal faster.
Perhaps the most immediate cosmic law.
Assista agora a mais um lançamento com a qualidade Vídeo 3.